Huzzah and well met once again to you, lords and ladies. And after 2 weeks, it's good to be back. I have for you today some more complex minecart unloaders, some that are going to unload directly into a water stream, and that will be, I think, the last minecart unloader video that I make, and then we'll move on to minecart loaders. To preface that, these are not very reliable. They are just here to be representative of loading your minecarts up. So don't use these. If you have a treasure chest on top of these, they will never let go of your minecart because even once you fill the minecart up, the hopper will still have items in it. And so it's not as smart as you might think. So anyways, let's get right into it. We have this first set of 3 here that are very basic. They're all single wide and tileable. They won't mess with each other if you put them right next to each other. And they all unload directly into a water stream. However, that water stream can't go back. I say back, towards the back side of this dropper here. What we use is a dropper to put the items into the water stream, and these cannot be built in a way unless you have the item drop quite a long ways into a water stream and then head towards the back side of the dropper. We'll get into some later that do this a little better, but these are some very basic and simple circuits that we can use. So this one is a 2-part circuit, as you can see from the concrete block colors. These two are the same circuit, doing the same thing. One uses a flat rail and one uses a tilted rail to make sure that we get our minecart with hopper over top of our hopper and our dropper. So these are real simple. The comparator here checks through our concrete block into the hopper. If there's an item in there, and there will be if our minecart is locked over top, if there's any items in the minecart, they will be pushed into the hopper, which will activate this. Our sticky piston here counts as a solid block, and our signal goes both to power the piston, which extends and makes us an observer clock. So this works slightly faster than our basic one item per cycle hopper. This is the fastest clock that we can make. Well, it's not the fastest clock we can make, but the fastest that observers can go. And it is rather quick, so we'll demonstrate that in a moment. But our circuit, or our signal, goes through powering the sticky piston and depowering this torch, depowering this block, depowering the repeater, and depowering our powered rails, which locks our minecart with hopper into place. This one does exactly the same thing, but like I said, it's just with a tilted rail. They extend the sticky piston and depower the rails until there are no items in the hopper, at which point everything turns back to its original setting and our minecart with hopper is available to go again if it existed on this rail. There, whoop. There, we got it. This circuit is a little more reliable because it separates both things. The green circuit here only deals with the rails and locking our minecart with hopper into place. So if there are items in the hopper, the comparator checks and does the same sort of signal, but it only depowers the torch. This one will not play with our sticky piston here, which will depower our repeater, depowering this block and depowering our rails, locking our minecart with hopper into place. And then when the comparator sees no items inside, the cart will be allowed to move again. Now, this comparator is checking inside the dropper itself and will extend the piston, causing our observer clock to be activated, which will cause the signal through the blue concrete block, depowering the torch, and then repowering the torch, and it will continue until this dropper is empty because we are checking with the comparator directly into the dropper. So if you need something to get absolutely everything out of the dropper with each cycle or each load, this is your circuit. It's a little bit more expensive because it does both things separately rather than tying it all together into one circuit. But this one, or these two rather, could end up leaving you an item or two in the dropper. So if that matters to you, stick with the more reliable twin circuit design. And if you're familiar with this world, you'll know that we've gone over these high speed unloaders before. These are our double speed ones in two different circuits, as well as our quad speed unloader. I've only moved them back and then placed these unloaders into the water stream here in their place. So we're going to skip over those. They're available in a different video. I will link that in this description, and also it will be part of the playlist. But we're going to get into these now that directly unload into a water stream, and we can use them to face those water streams in any direction. As you saw before, we had a water stream passing through a group of them at a perpendicular angle. This one, you can rotate this whole bottom from the blue circuit, or excuse me, from the treasure box beneath this blue concrete circuit. You could turn at this column. You could face the treasure box like so. You'll have to use your imagination and build the circuit so that the water stream goes that way. You could turn this around so the water stream is headed this way. You could do it that way. This is the very same circuit that we've used before in certain elevators. We've used it for our disposals before. It's semi-reliable, but it is based entirely on being able to have this observer observe a change inside this treasure chest. If you end up with all of your items completely backed up for some reason, and it is Bedrock, it can happen, you will get this observer not observing any changes because there's no changes to observe, and you will have your whole circuit stuck. So just be aware of that. Once again, with this circuit, do not adjust this because that will make it will excuse me once again, it will make sure that you do not get all of your items out of your dropper, and that is the number one reason that you'll end up with a backed up treasure box, and then your minecarts won't unload. They'll all just be stuck sitting right here. And I realized I hadn't demonstrated any of this, so we're just going to use a quick few items here. But you'll see that our observer made it out, and our cart got stuck. It's another reason to remember that these circuits these very simple circuits anyways, can be easily jibbered up and not continue to work for you properly. So for that, we have some of these smarter circuits back here. Now, this group of three, before we get to these last two unloaders here, can all be rotated around the hopper and dropper. So once again, if you wanted your water stream to go that way off into the distance, or that way, or as far that way as you'd like, you can rotate this whole apparatus underneath the rail. So from these green concrete blocks downward, you can twist this in whatever direction you'd like. I only built them all this way for consistency in the world and display purposes, but you've seen this circuit before. We've talked about it in a previous video, and you've seen this circuit before. It is the very same as one of our disposal or unloader setups over there. And once again, these will all be linked in the description or the playlist. You can extend this by adding more blocks between this block and between the comparator and repeater here. And you can extend this so that there are tons of repeaters, And this one can be adjusted so that it can be slow. However, this is one of our higher speed ones. This one is the one we would use if we were just going to go slowly. This one can allow us to unload things very quickly, and in fact, it's so quick that the minecart with hopper can't keep up. You'll see we'll get about a 3-round burst out of this each time. However, because our circuit up top is so good, our minecart will have to be empty, or rather our hoppers that we're detecting will have to be empty, and before the minecart is allowed to move. But then also, because this circuit is separate and smart enough that it looks at the dropper itself, none of our items are going to be left in the dropper for any reason. So both of these are separate, and they're actually both very good circuits for what they're doing. And I won't discuss them too much. This video will end up far too long. If we want, we can extend this circuit as well, similarly as if we used the circuit over there at the unloaders, and we can make this one go very slow if for some reason you wanted to use this to supply perhaps an allay farm, or an allay sorting device, excuse me, and then that way you can bottleneck your flow of items so that they're slowly coming out. Once again, we'll have the items unloading from the minecart to the hopper. As long as there are items in this hopper, the minecart will be stuck in place. But you see that even though it's slowly firing, it is loading up faster, and our minecart will be allowed to go long before our hopper is actually emptied. This one might end up backed up quite a bit. It will self-regulate though. If you had a farm that was overly productive, your minecart would get hung up here and not be off getting reloaded. But it won't if your hopper were to be completely full. It would just keep your minecart hung up over top of the hopper until the hopper is full, and then your minecart will be allowed to go again and collect from the farm or whatever it is that you're loading from. So, like I said, it will self-regulate. This isn't going to get backed up and broken. It may get backed up quite a ways. And we can keep it even at a single tick. And there, we finished. Now, this one, as I said, was faster. We want to use this one in use cases where we need to speedily unload things into a water stream. Uh, Water streams, as we've talked about before, are just much cheaper designs, so this might be why you'd want to use something like this instead of just running your minecart with hopper all the way through. So you'll see it's locked into place, being very quickly unloaded, and it actually goes so fast that even with the possibility of our double speed unloader here, um, that clock flashes so quickly that it will empty out the dropper before there's more items placed into it from our minecart with hopper. So what we need are even faster unloaders, and here we're going to combine, once again, we've gone over this circuit in our high speed unloaders minecart unloaders video, so I will not spend too much time, but that's what's happening here. Our minecart will get connected, or it will get trapped by our piston when it extends over our activator rail here, the items will go directly through. You'll see they're moving real quick there. We use a router or distributor setup, which will be a whole other video. You heard our piston distend there and allow our cart to go again. And we're already done with that one. Finally, we have a way to use our quad speed minecart unloader. This actually makes it less quick than placing the items in a box over top of the unloader system. But you can see that was still very quick to unload a minecart. And it's only then just now getting back to moving. So this would be for some very high yield farms, bamboo farms, gigantic melon farms are another use for this, because when you harvest melons, they break into pieces and you suddenly have 4 times as many stacks of things, or even more. I think melons can drop anywhere from 2 to 8 melon slices. So you could end up with 8 stacks at a time in a melon farm, plus seeds, depending on how you run yours. So that's really all there is to these. I'm going to try and keep these videos closer to 15 minutes because they seem to do better than when I get into 20-minute territory like my last video. That one didn't do so well, but I do thank you all for subscribing and liking and commenting and whatnot. And I hope you're blessed on your next quest. And I'm off to my next adventure. I am your White Sun Paladin, and I will see you next time.